What's up guys, my name is RMV6 and welcome to the best guide I have ever made. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to play against every hero in the Marvel Rivals roster, starting with the easy matchups, then the medium ones, and then the hard matchups. I'm a Celestial Ironfist one trick and I promise you that you will learn at least something from this video. This guide took me forever to make, so I would really appreciate if you left a like. Anyway, you guys know I don't like long intros, so let's just get started. Alright, so first we're going to go over the easy matchups. All of these heroes have something in common, and it's that whenever you see these heroes in the enemy team, you should prioritize them. Of course, keep your top priority the supports, but none of these heroes should really be giving you a tough time. In fact, you're actually a hard counter to a lot of them. Alright, so first we have Jeff. Jeff is probably one of, if not the easiest matchup for you on Iron Fist. And the reason is he can't really do much about you. He can either run from you, or he can stay and fight, which he will die. When going against a Jeff, I recommend that you make him your number one target. He should be the one that you are going for every single fight if possible. Use your right click right away before you go in and just start punching him. If he starts running away, follow him. Don't let him get away. Remember, even though Jeff might be hard to kill with his bubbles, every second you spend chasing him across the map is 1 second that the front line or the rest of the team doesn't get any healing. It's also worth noting that you can block his entire ultimate with your right click. Just hold down right click as soon as you see the circle spawn in below you. Next up is Moon Knight. Moon Knight naturally suffers against dive, so he's going to be one of your easier targets. He can't really get away from you with any of his abilities, so you can keep locking onto him even if he's trying to fly away, and he'll have no way to escape you. The best way to deal with a Moon Knight is wait until he's alone or away from any healers, use your right click before you go in to deal extra damage, and then just start punching him. Like I said, he really has no way to get away from you, so his only option of defense is by throwing an Ankh on you to try and kill you. If he does throw his Ankh on you and it's just you and him, he still simply won't have enough damage to kill you. You can just ignore the Ankh and keep punching him and he will die. If he uses his ult, you can block it and get a bunch of bonus health from it. Next up is Rocket. The main thing with having an enemy rocket on the other team is you always need to be looking for the res beacon. They usually won't be hidden too far away from the fight, but if you're having trouble finding it, don't spend all match looking for it, just go in the fight and try to get a kill. Destroying the beacon is going to be your job, so you have to make sure that you don't forget about it. Aside from the beacon, Rocket is a lot like Jeff in the way that he's a very easy target, but not necessarily easy to kill. His movement might make it a little hard to land hits on him, so I recommend not using your right click and instead using your regular attacks as they're more consistent. Just like Jeff, even if you don't get the kill, every second you spend going for Rocket is 1 second less of healing for the other team. However, unlike Jeff, instead of going for Rocket first, I would recommend going for him after you already killed the other support because his healing output is a lot less. You're going to get more value killing the other support first than going for Rocket and chasing him around the entire map all game. Next up is Black Widow. Although she's normally a long-range hero, don't underestimate her from close range. If you get grappled, kicked, and then headshot, you might die, so it's good to save your right click for when you dive her, and then as soon as she turns around to you, try to block her kick. This will almost guarantee that you get the kill every single time because she can't really get away from you at all. You should also always try to approach a Widow from an angle where she can't see you, because if you try to approach her from the front, then she will just headshot you and you'll probably die. But if you approach her from the side or from behind, she won't have a lot of time to react, and this will give you a huge advantage. Honestly, not much else to say about Widow. She's pretty easy. Just try to block her kick as soon as she turns around. If she's sitting up on high ground uncontested, then you should probably try to get up there as fast as you can. Next up is Cloak and Dagger. They are a very easy dive for you, and you should definitely make them one of your top targets if you see them on the enemy team. When diving them, you should always use your right click right away, as there isn't going to be anything that you need to block, and it just does more damage. When you dive a Cloak and Dagger, they're usually going to do one of two things. The first is immediately go to Cloak, and then use the right click to try to get away. If they do this, look up in the air to see where the Cloak goes, with the little outline of the circle, and try to follow it as closely as you can. If they don't get any other help from their team, this is pretty much a guaranteed kill every single time. The second thing they may do is stay on Dagger and use bubble on themselves. Now this will heal her, but it won't be enough to out heal your damage. You can still kill her inside of her bubble, it's just a lot harder. If she does this, and even if you don't get the kill, at least you still made her use her bubble, which is one of her most important cooldowns. If it doesn't look like she's gonna die, or if she's getting help from another healer, then it's probably worth it to just back out and reset. Then after you reset, you can dive her again and try to get the kill. Next, I want to talk about Punisher. Punisher is like Moon Knight in the sense that he naturally suffers against dive, so you're going to do well against him. Unless he's getting pocketed, then it might be a little hard. If possible, try to approach him from an off angle when he has his AR out, not when he has his shotgun out. If he has his regular AR out, then use your right click right away and just start hitting him. If he doesn't get healed, then this is an easy kill every single time. If you approach from an off angle and he takes out his shotgun, it doesn't matter, you're still going to kill him. However, if you're approaching him from the front or from where he can see you, and he takes out his shotgun, then I always recommend using your right click to try to block the shotgun shot. This will give you plenty of bonus health to kill him even if he has his shotgun out. If he has his shotgun out and he starts getting healed, that's when you should probably leave, because then he can one-tap you and he's a lot more time to live. Another key point with Punisher is his turret. You always need to be on the lookout for a Punisher turret, and if he's set up somewhere, then it's your job to go up and bother him. Even if he's in turret mode though, you can still out-damage him and kill him. If he's on the ground and he uses his smoke screen, then just try to jump through it in the direction that he went, and it should be no problem for you. Next up is Invisible Woman. She's actually a fairly easy dive. Just use your right click right away and just start beating her up. Oftentimes she'll jump away and become invisible, and if that happens, what I find to be effective is if you turn back to your team, make it look like you're going to run away from her, and then she'll start attacking again, and that's when you jump back on top of her and kill her. Basically, you're making it look like you're going back to your team, and then that causes her to re-engage in combat, making her an easy kill. If she is standing in her shield, she's going to get healed a lot, so don't be afraid to use your kick to get out if it's not looking like it's going to go anywhere. However, you're still able to break the shield and kill her. If you're diving somebody else on her team and she puts a shield on them, then you should be prepared to use your shift and run away, because the shield actually does a lot of healing, and especially if you're diving a damaged character, then you're in kind of a risk of dying. Also, her push is kind of pointless for you, because even if she pushes you away, you're just going to regain that distance in like half a second, so it's going to be hard for her to get away from you. Next up is Hawkeye. Hawkeye's a little interesting because he can still one-shot you if you're not careful. The best way to go about it is to attack him with your regular punches like usual, wait until he turns around, try to block his shot, and then you'll have 450 health to do whatever you want. Another possibility for Hawkeyes, instead of turning around and shooting you immediately, is for them to turn around and use their slash to try to get you away. You can also completely block the slash, so if they do that, then you're also unkillable and they really have no way to get away from you. Or they just shoot you and give you infinite HP, and then it's the easiest kill ever. Either way, Hawkeye's a really easy kill. If he's getting hard-pocketed, then just leave. After all, he is a DPS hero, and you should be going for the supports first anyway. Next is Scarlet Witch. Scarlet is pretty easy to kill as long as you stay close to her and don't let her do damage that she shouldn't be doing to you. If she uses her invisibility, then try to follow the bubble as closely as you can, so as soon as she reappears, you're right on top of her. At the end of the day, Scarlet actually does a pretty decent amount of damage, but you still do more than her. Therefore, she might come a little close to killing you, but if you stick it out, then you still do more damage than her and you should still get the kill every time. Just definitely don't be afraid to run away if you need to, because her range is limited, so if you need to get away, then you can easily get away and there's nothing that she can do. You can also block her entire ultimate with your right click. Next is Magik. Now, some people actually might be surprised with Magik being this easy on the list, but let me explain why. She is a melee character just like you, so she has to get close to you to do damage. Oftentimes, Magik will use her portal to close the distance between you two. If she does this, immediately start blocking and you should get a bunch of bonus health from whatever she does. Either she places a minion or she does her squirrel attack. Either way, you'll get a lot of bonus health and that should be enough to take her down. Usually though, after she sees that she just gave you a bunch of bonus health, she'll try to run away. Her only main options for running away are her E ability or her portal. If she tries to use her portal to get away, then it won't be fast enough and you can actually pressure her down and kill her. You have a lot more mobility than her, so she can't run away from you. That's the thing. If she gives you a lot of extra bonus health, then it's an easy kill for you because she just messed up. Another thing worth noting is that if Magik is trying to run away and she uses her minions, you can actually use your right click to farm shields off of the minions. Just stand in front of one of them, use your right click, and it'll give you a bunch of bonus health, and you can use that bonus health to go kill her. Next is Captain America, the first Vanguard in this list. Now, throughout this video, you're not going to hear me saying a lot about Vanguards, because at the end of the day, every tank should be the last target you go for, and if they're the last target, then really you don't need any tips, just jump on top of them and hit them. However, for Captain America specifically, he might be a little bit annoying to you if you're in the backline and he tries to help his team. However, the thing about Cap is that he doesn't really do a lot of damage to you. So if you're in the backline with him, then you should completely ignore him and just keep going for the supports. Oftentimes, he's not going to do enough damage to actually get you away from the supports before you kill them. And even if he does and he makes you run away, then think about it. You just made a tank go from the front line all the way to the back line to try to help their back line. What I'm trying to say is that you get a lot of value even if you don't get a kill by drawing Captain America's attention. This should open up plenty of opportunities for your team. Also, his shield doesn't have a lot of health, so if he's blocking, then you can just punch it down. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the easy heroes. Now let's move on to the medium ones. Now, all of these medium heroes are here because they all have some kind of counterplay to you. Nobody is getting hard countered, and the outcome can go either way. It really just comes down to who plays better. Of course, you should prioritize the easy targets, but if there are none available, then these guys are just fine. Alright, so we're just going to start off strong and go right into the Iron Fist 1v1. You better win this 1v1, because if you don't, your ego will be shattered, trust me, you don't want to lose. Thankfully though, there is a cheat code to pretty much win every single time, unless they also know the cheat code, but they probably don't since I invented it. Unless they watch this video. Anyway, essentially what you want to do is force them to use their cooldowns before you. Go in with your regular normal punches and do not use your right click until they use theirs first. Once they use their right click, they'll probably start to block some damage. Stop hitting them so you don't give them free health. And then right after their block is done, that's when you use your right click. This essentially guarantees that they give you a lot of bonus health because right after the Iron Fist stops blocking, he'll probably just try to punch you. And that'll give you hopefully more bonus health than you just gave them. Also, because you used your right click after they did, yours has a longer duration on it. So you have your enhanced punches for longer than they have theirs. Now, in an Iron Fist 1v1, you're probably going to have to use your kick to finish the other one off. And remember, Iron Fist is 250 HP. So that means as soon as the Iron Fist drops below 4 bars of HP, that's when you use your kick and that'll kill them. You have to save your kick for when they're low because otherwise it won't do enough damage. But only use it if you're sure that it's going to get the kill because otherwise you're going to have to use your kick to run away. Trust me, don't die in an Iron Fist 1v1. If you have to get out because you're losing, just do it. Just get out. Next up is Hela. A Hela with good aim is deadly, so here's what you want to try to do. Always try to sneak up behind her or from the side, or from somewhere where she can't see you. If you approach her from the front, you're giving her a lot of time to react to you and shoot you, and remember, all it takes is 2 headshots for you to die. Now you can honestly approach a fight with a Hela 2 different ways. You can either start hitting her with your normal punches, wait until she turns around, and then block some damage for the more safer option, or you could risk it and use your right click right away to try to deal as much damage as you can and try to get the kill. I recommend trying the second way first, and if that doesn't work out, then you can go for the more safer option. However, in the end, what you're trying to get her to do is use her bird. When she uses her bird, follow it really closely so as soon as she gets out of it, then you can start hitting her and kill her. Remember, after she uses her bird, she has nothing else to get away from you. If you got her low enough, you can also just use your kick on top of the bird just to finish her off really quickly. But I don't recommend doing this all the time because that makes you really vulnerable since you already used your shift and your right click. Basically, just try to keep it close quarters with her and try to sneak up on her from behind so she can't kill you from far. Next up is Loki. Loki can be a bit annoying when he's on the enemy team because his shift ability pretty much counters your dive every time. However, remember that his shift ability is definitely his best ability and it has a long cooldown. So when there's a Loki on the enemy team, your job primarily shifts from getting the kill on Loki to getting his shift out. You want to try to get him to use this ability as much as possible because this is his most valuable ability, and once he uses it, his value goes down a lot. If you dive at Loki and get him to use his shift, then you should consider that a successful dive. However, that doesn't mean that you have to run away straight away. If Loki is by himself, or if you're not in a risk of dying, you can punch out the top of the fields to make them go away. Then after that, Loki's a pretty easy kill. Try to watch him to see if he teleports, and if he does, then just jump on top of him. Usually if he goes invisible, it isn't too much of a problem because you'll just immediately punch him out of it. So he really isn't hard to kill once you get his shift out. Oh, and of course, I also recommend using your right click right away as you don't have to block anything from him. Next is Luna Snow. If they have a Luna Snow on the enemy team, I always make her either my number 1 or number 2 target. She should be a top priority at all times. Her healing output is very high, so even if you don't get the kill on her, taking her attention away from the team is actually very valuable. However, she has a snowball ability that if she hits you with it, you're pretty much dead. Therefore, you usually want to dive Luna with your regular attacks and then try to block the snowball. The best way I've found to block the snowball is pretty much just like with any hero. Attack her from behind or from the side with your normal punches. And then as soon as she turns to look at you, give it like 1 second and then start blocking. That'll give you a fairly high chance to block the snowball. And if you block the snowball, then it's pretty much a free kill. To maximize your chance of getting a kill though, you can also watch and make sure that she uses her shift ability before you go in, because her shift gives her a lot of healing and also makes her do a lot of extra damage. Basically, just don't underestimate her, but if you block her snowball, it's pretty much a free kill. Also, if she's in her ultimate, you can keep hitting her in it and get a bunch of ult charge from it. Next is Psylocke. Psylocke can be a little annoying because she's a hit scan and she can constantly take your HP down from anywhere, especially if you're trying to hide or heal. However, when actually fighting a Psylocke, it's actually not too bad. If you can manage to block her right click and or her dash, then you'll have a very easy time getting the rest of the kill. It can be a little tricky to predict when she's going to use her dash, but it'll usually be when she's close enough to you to use it for the first time in the fight. So right when she's looking at you and she's within range, try to block. If you successfully block her combo, then chase her down and you should have no problem winning the fight. If she goes invis while you're fighting her, then try to listen for her footsteps. Also, if you're close enough to her and she goes invis, then you can actually keep punching her and it'll show where she is. Lastly, if she uses her ult, you can block it and get a massive amount of bonus HP. Overall, she's not terrible, just try to stay out of her line of sight until you're ready to fight her. Next is Spider-Man. You versus Spider-Man is kind of like a stalemate for both of you. Spider-Man isn't going to win a 1v1 with you if he tries to stick it out, so he'll just stay out of your range and there's really nothing you can do about it. But if he does try to fight you, here's what you should do. Obviously, he's going to try to web you up and then pull himself into you in an uppercut to try to kill you. As soon as he webs you up and you see the animation where he's about to use his E to pull himself into you, start blocking with your right click and you'll block all of the damage. Then he has almost no way to do any damage to you and you're going to win a 1v1 if he stays. So naturally, if Spider-Man realizes that he just messed up, then he'll try to run away. And that is honestly all you need to do. I don't really recommend chasing him down unless you know you're going to get the kill because he has a lot more movement than you, and if you waste your shift, then you're going to be in a bad situation. Just follow him if you're absolutely sure you can get the kill. Otherwise though, Spider-Man probably won't try to go for you that much anyway, so you can kind of just ignore him. Next is Wolverine. Wolverine is pretty much in the exact same boat as Spider-Man in the sense that neither of you are going to kill each other. A 1v1 between you two will get absolutely nowhere because you both have way too much survivability for each other. However, there is actually a pretty interesting interaction when he tries to use his shift and you're blocking. If Wolverine tries to grab you and you're actively blocking, he'll just go right through you and his shift will be used. Sometimes if I know where a Wolverine is hiding, I'll intentionally walk past him, pretending like I don't know where he is to try to get him to use his shift on me. As soon as I walk into his path, I start blocking, and oftentimes, as soon as I walk into his path, he'll actually just use his shift and jump off of wherever he was hiding because he can't get you when you're blocking. This can be a good way to make him use his most valuable ability. Otherwise though, Wolverine is a very low priority target, save him for last. Next up is Winter Soldier or Bucky. Bucky is a little interesting because I was actually planning on putting him in the easy tier, but I ended up putting him in the medium tier. The bottom line is, you should win a 1v1 against a Bucky every single time. You can block all of his abilities, and his shift ability actually has a weird functionality where if you're using your punches, then you'll actually keep punching him while he's punching you. It looks like this. Now the main thing to watch out for, and the sole reason that he is in the medium tier, is because of his hook. If you're on the backline beating up the supports and Bucky hooks you away from the supports, then you're kind of in a bit of trouble. If you get hooked, try to kick out of there as fast as you can. Do not stay and fight. Just reset and try to go for the supports again. Now, because of this, your best chances of diving the backline with an enemy Bucky is waiting for the supports to be far away from Bucky so you can freely dive them without Bucky peeling for them. Basically, just wait until he's busy so he can't hook you. If you find him alone, then by all means you can go for the kill, but it's honestly just best to wait until the supports are dead before going for him. Also, his ultimate will still give you the red thing on your health bar even if you block it. However, you won't take any damage from it and you'll actually get a lot of bonus health. Next is Squirrel Girl. This is one of those heroes where you need to save your block for a certain ability, otherwise you're going to get destroyed. If you're going to dive a Squirrel Girl, do it when she's away from the supports, because a Squirrel Girl who's getting pocketed will almost always kill you. In her case, you have to save your block for her right click, which actually has a pretty long animation that you can react to. Once you see her throw her hands over her head and grab the acorn, start blocking immediately. If you manage to successfully block it, then she's kind of like Hela, where if she hits her shots, you could still die, but you do have a pretty good chance of getting the kill. It's just not a guarantee. However, the good news is that if you don't block her right click, then that probably means that you still have your block, so even if you get frozen, you'll probably still live because you still have your block. Therefore, the only thing that you don't want to do with a Squirrel Girl is use your right click before you go in, because that is the only outcome where you actually have a significant risk of dying. Overall, just keep practicing reacting to her ability and you should be fine with her. Next up is Iron Man, specifically without the Gamma team up. If there's an Iron Man but not a Hulk on the other team, then Iron Man actually isn't too bad. Here's the main way you should play against him and draw his attention away from your team. Try to get up to him without using your jumps. Use your wall run to get to him, so you have at least 2 jumps, hopefully 3 by the time you get to him. Then start hitting him with your normal attacks. If he starts flying around, then he's pretty much killing himself because he's not going to get away from you. So you can keep using your regular attacks, again, save your right click, to chase him around everywhere and try to kill him. However, if Iron Man stays in fights, he'll probably start using his beam to do damage to you. In this case, you have your right click. Now, you want to use your right click to try to block as much damage as you can from his beam. Then, with the jumps that you have, because remember, you did not use your double jumps to get up to him, you can jump back up to him and start hitting him again with all of the bonus health that he gave you. This should be enough to kill him, assuming that you have all the jumps that you need to get up to him. Mainly, you just want to bother Iron Man as much as you can and get his attention off of your team. Also, you can block his entire ult with your right click. Next is Mr. Fantastic. Okay, I honestly really don't have a lot to say about him. You should treat him as a tank because he might as well be. You're not going to kill him and he really isn't going to kill you. And he should really never be the one that you're going for unless all the other top priority targets are already dead. There isn't really anything in particular that you have to block for him. And there really isn't much I can say about him other than save him for last and just punch him down when it's his turn. He isn't a threat to you and you aren't really a threat to him at all, so just ignore him. Next is Hulk. Alright, now we're getting into a bunch of tanks that you really just should be ignoring. It is not Ironfist's job to deal with tanks at all, but this is a guide for every hero, so I'm going to have him in here anyway. Basically with Hulk, just don't try to 1v1 him, obviously, and save him for last. If he turns into Bruce Banner, and he's the last one alive, then your team can stagger him, which pretty much just means letting him live on purpose for like an extra 10 seconds, and then killing him after that to make him spawn back in the fight later. Another thing with Hulk is that you can use him to charge up your right click. So if you're waiting on your right click's cooldown and you're just on the payload fighting, you can punch him a few times to get your right click back because he is a really big target. But at the end of the day, just leave him for last. He isn't your job. Pretty much the same thing goes for Strange. He's a low priority target and you should not be going for him unless he is like the last one alive. Remember with Strange that you can punch through his portal, which actually can be useful if he's about to die in the front line. You can help your team finish him off pretty easily. Just don't get too carried away because remember he can still like one tap you. If he's really low and he flies into the air, you can lock onto him with your punches to try to get the kill. Also, you can block his entire ult. As soon as you hear by the eye of, you should start blocking. In fact, you're actually going to have to react pretty fast. Next is Magneto. Magneto is kind of like Strange, where he's low priority target and you can punch through his shield, but he's actually a lot less threatening to you than Strange is. The only reason that he's in the medium tier instead of the easy tier is that if he turns around and bubbles someone in the backline that you're on, then he essentially saves them. Which is why it's really important to wait until the front line is busy before you dive. If Magneto is busy fighting the front line while you dive the backline, there's much less chance that he's going to turn around and bubble the backline. If he bubbles himself or someone else, you can actually break the bubble, but not if you're by yourself. You alone don't do enough damage to break it. But if you are shooting it as well as other people, then you can keep punching it and it'll break. Overall, Magneto, he's a tank, save him for last. Next up is Venom. If Venom is on your backline, then you can help them just by punching him, but again, that really isn't your job. If you're punching him in the backline, then think of yourself as a Captain America to him, because you're not really doing any damage, you're just being annoying. And it's honestly not worth fighting a Venom at all, even if they are in your backline. Just try to go for their backline. Especially if you dive their supports, that'll also make it so Venom doesn't get any healing, because you're distracting all the supports. So that leaves a window for him to die. Kind of like Spiderman, if he starts running away, just ignore him. Only chase him down if you're really sure that you can get the kill, which won't really happen often anyway. Finally, the last hero in the medium category is Groot. I was actually debating on putting Groot in the hard category simply because he does so much damage. If you try fighting a Groot for whatever reason and he isn't the last one alive, then he's just gonna kill you. If he tries to wall you off, you can also climb his walls, so at least there's that, he can't wall you off. Treat him like a Hulk in the sense that you can farm right click off him if you need to, but just wait till he's the last one alive to kill him. I don't really have anything else to say about him, just let's go on to the hard heroes. Alright, so finally we have the hard matchups. All of these heroes are either going to be hard for you to kill, or they're going to make your job as a flanker very difficult. However, it does not mean that you have to immediately switch if you see these heroes on the enemy team. There are ways to play around all of them, and that's what I'm about to go over. Alright, first is Black Panther. I put Panther in the hard tier because he has way more movement than you, and therefore he's going to win a fight every single time almost. He can also run away from a fight if he's getting low or if he's losing, and since his movement is so fast, there isn't really much that you can do. Aside from that, if he attacks your backline, since he attacks so fast, there isn't a lot of time for you to turn around and help, especially since you won't be playing very close to your backline anyway. However, if a Black Panther is trying to kill you, here's how you should go about it. As soon as you see him throw his spear, start blocking. The animation for the spear throw is actually quite reactable, so as soon as you see him lift his arm in the air to throw the spear, start blocking. Oftentimes, he'll use his dash right after and dash right through you, but keep in mind that if he dashes through you and you are blocking, he doesn't get his dash back even if you are marked. Therefore, if you successfully block his shift ability, which is his main dash, then he doesn't have that ability anymore and that's your time to go kill him. The only other way that he can get away is with his E. If the moment is right and he doesn't use his E to get into his team, then you can jump on top of him and he's kind of defenseless for the next 6 seconds until he has his dash again. Most of the time, Panther won't be your responsibility, but if you do need to go in for the kill, do it right after you successfully block his dash. Next, I have Adam Warlock. Adam is quite a difficult matchup for you because he's very good into dive. His soulbound ability can save the entire team against almost any dive in the game. And even if he doesn't have that ability, his regular heal can heal the entire backline with just a simple push of a button. He doesn't even have to aim it, and everybody in the backline is now full HP. Therefore, when going against an Adam, your job turns away from getting the kill into getting his soulbound out. Kind of like with Loki and his shift ability. Every time you think Adam has his soulbound ability back, try to dive him to get it out of him. After you get his ability out, everybody in the backline's survivability is now a lot lower. So that should open up a lot more opportunities for your team and for yourself. Just be careful though, if Adam has his right click charged up, don't dive him. That thing can absolutely wreck you if you dive him when he's fully charged. Therefore, it's a good idea to try to time it up and wait until he uses his right click and then you go in. But if you need to, you can still block it with your right click to get a lot of bonus HP. If you see Adam use his soulbound ability and you weren't the one to get it out, then that is your cue to instantly dive him, as long as it's safe. He has 0 mobility and not a lot of protection if that soulbound is out, so keep an eye out for that. Next up is Iron Man. But RMV, isn't Iron Man already in the medium category? Yes, but this time he has the Gamma team up. If there's an Iron Man and a Hulk on the same team, just accept the fact that you're probably not going to kill Iron Man a lot, if at all. However, you still can get him to use his Gamma ability. Approach it the same way as before. Try to use your wall run to get up to him, start hitting him with your regular punches, and as soon as he uses the Gamma beam on you, you can block the damage and then immediately run away. Again, do not fight an Iron Man with a Gamma beam. You will die, that thing does way too much damage. Just save your shift and use it to get out immediately after, so that way he uses his Gamma. Everything else for him stays the same, but the only difference is that if he has his Gamma ability, don't stay and fight and try to kill him, because you're not going to win. Next up is Mantis. Mantis is a lot like Luna in the sense that it's a 50-50 mind game between you two of who's going to come out on top. If you can successfully block Mantis' sleep, then she's an easy kill almost every time. And I say almost because on top of having a sleep ability that's a lot easier to hit than Luna's, she does a lot more damage than Luna, so if you actually do get slept, then you're pretty much always going to die. However, you should treat her the exact same way that you treat Luna. Attack her from behind or from the side, and as soon as she turns around to look at you, give it like half a second to 1 second and then start blocking. That, in my experience, gives you the highest chance to block the sleep, and if you see that you do block the sleep, then you should be able to kill her pretty easily. You gotta be careful though, because even if you dive somebody else who is not the Mantis, Mantis can still sleep you. So say you're gonna dive the Invisible Woman who's right next to Mantis. Dive her with your normal punches instead of using right click, and try to predict when Mantis is gonna use her sleep. If you do block it, then great, you should at least be able to get a kill. However, if you don't block it, let's say you use your right click too early, I recommend just leaving right away. Because this means that Mantis still has her sleep and you don't have a block for it, so you need to get out of there before you get slept and die. Overall, it's really just a mind game with her. If you're going to dive her multiple times in the same match, then maybe try to switch up when you start blocking so she doesn't get used to it. Alright, next we have Namor, which I consider to be your third hardest counter. Namor is really annoying. His squids will constantly bother you if you're trying to hide or if you're trying to heal, and it'll constantly tick down your HP. On top of that, if he hits one right click on you when you don't have a block or anything to protect yourself, then you are almost always just gonna die. Here's the best way that I found to play against him. Before you dive into Namor, take note of what he has around him. If he has squids down near him, then you're gonna want to dive him with your regular punches, like you would with a Mantis or a Luna, and start blocking like 1 second later to block his right click. If you successfully block the right click, his squids will still shoot you, giving you even more bonus HP, and at that point it's actually a pretty easy kill. However, keep in mind that if Namor does not have any squids around him, then he will always throw squids first before he uses his right click, because otherwise the right click won't do anything. So if Namor has no squids on him, Wait until he throws some down before you start blocking. If you use your block and realize that you did not block anything, that's your cue to leave right away. Do not stay and fight a Namor if he has your right click and you don't have your right click. Alright, so now how about if I want to dive somebody else when Namor is also on the enemy team? Namor will usually play near the backline so he can protect them. So if at any point you see that a support is separated from Namor, that is your chance to go in. However, if the enemy supports are playing on top of Namor, your best bet is to wait and see until he throws his squids, have somebody on your team shoot at the squids to break them, and then that is your time to go in because he doesn't have any squids down. And that's not going to guarantee a kill. You might not get a kill this way, but even if you can be distracting and draw the enemy backline's attention away from their front line, then you're getting value. Next, I want to talk about Star-Lord. Similar to Psylocke, but on a much more severe level, Star-Lord is going to be so annoying because he's constantly going to be shooting you when you're trying to hide. He's just always going to be ticking your HP down, so your chances of winning a fight are just a lot lower. Here's the best advice I have for him. If you're going to fight a Star-Lord, you have to keep it close quarters. If he's flying up in a giant open space, just ignore him, don't go for him. However, if you see him fly into an enclosed area, or maybe you can sneak up behind him, then he's actually pretty easy to kill. Like Hela, if you give him time to take your HP down, that's when you're going to lose the fight most of the time. If you start hitting him and he flies back into his team, just leave. If Star-Lord is getting pocketed or healed while you're trying to fight him, you're not going to get the kill. He still should be a very low priority target for you because there are other people on the team, most likely, that are a lot easier to kill than Star-Lord. Overall, you want to stay out of his line of sight, try to keep it close quarters with him, and don't heal where he can see you. Next is Storm. I consider Storm to be your number 2 counter. She is impossibly difficult for you to kill in a 1v1, and if you do kill her, then it's honestly just a skill gap. The thing is, she's like a Gamma Beam Iron Man all the time because she will do that much damage to you if you're in her face. Therefore, the best advice that I have against fighting a Storm is don't. Seriously, don't fight a Storm. Never. If you for some reason have to fight her though, use your wall run to get up to her like Iron Man, save your jumps, and this is difficult, but if you see that she's going to use her right click, then you can actually react to it and block it. Again, this is actually really difficult, and I just don't recommend fighting her at all. If she uses her ult, though, that is your chance to go in. She won't have any presence in her team's backline if she uses her ult, so that is the perfect opportunity for you to try to get a kill. Also, of course, try to stay out of the range of her lightning storm to avoid your HP being ticked down for no reason. Alright, next up is Peni, who I believe to be is your number 1 counter on Ironfist. The reason Peni is such a hard counter is because there's almost nothing that you can do about her spider mines. You can't break them because you're a melee hero, and if you try to break them, you're probably just gonna die. Therefore, the best thing that I can recommend with her is calling out to your team to help you with the spider mines. If somebody can break the spider mines for you, that takes a lot of weight off your shoulders. You can break the mines yourself if you use your right click to block the spiders, but again, that uses your right click and then that renders you useless in the next like 10 seconds of the fight anyway, so I just don't recommend doing that. The only time I would really recommend doing that is if you have your ult, because then at least you get your right click back in 3 seconds instead of 15. But with Peni, you just need some help. You can't do it alone. Don't try diving somebody who's standing in the spider mines. They do so much damage. And certainly don't dive her because she's a tank and you should be going for her last. If you see someone on her team who's standing out of the range of the spider web, then that's actually a good opportunity for you to go in and try to punish them for it. Overall though, don't dive somebody who's in the mines. Try to get your team's help breaking them, and save her for last, obviously, because she's a tank. Finally, the last hero in this guide is Thor. Thor sucks to have on the enemy team, especially if he peels for the backline a lot. He's kind of like Captain America, but instead he actually has an impact on you if you're in the backline because he does a lot more damage. If Thor peels for the backline, accept that you're probably not going to kill anything. However, what you should do is try to stay alive as long as you can. Think about it. If you make Thor peel for the backline, that is a very good opportunity for your team to move forward and take space. Since, of course, you're distracting both a support and a tank. If Thor is peeling for the backline, then even on characters who you would normally use your right click right away on, like Invisible Woman, I recommend saving your right click for. So that way you can stay alive as long as possible when Thor comes in and tries to help her. The longer you can keep his attention away from the front of your team, the more distracting you are and the more value you're getting, even if you're not getting kills. You're just going to have to learn to accept that there are other ways to get value that don't involve getting kills. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's all 35 heroes in one guide. I just got done editing this video and oh my god, I think I took like 15 hours on this thing. So if you guys enjoyed or found something useful in here, please leave a like. Comment if you have any questions. I'll try to read them all and get back to them. But anyway, thank you so much for watching if you made it this far, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.